up, my little baby internet land? Okay, so sorry about the last few videos being vertical. I keep forgetting to grab my tripod and using my phone stand, and it's vertical, sorry. So, yeah. But anyway, so I've got a little story time today. And I'm painting a little mushroom jar dude head thing. Yeah, so like, subscribe, click all the things, and I promise I will try to record like the proper way next time. I'll try to remember. Okay, so I've got a little bit of a story time today. When I paint this little mushroom cap dude. Okay, so a long time ago, in a land far away from here known as Texas, aka the surface of the sun in the middle of the summer. It wasn't quite the middle of the summer yet, no. I actually got to spend the middle of summer in a wheelchair, so that was like super fun, yeah. Okay, so back to the story. So I was in this parking lot. It was of a business that is no longer there. It was something called the Caravan Inn in Fort Worth. It was a long time ago, made famous by a Pauly Shore movie. That is about it, and then it got torn down one day. And you know what? I gotta say, it's probably for the best given the shape that the parking lot was in. Not the best, you know, not the best at all. And so what had happened was, I was dialing a number on my phone. I was trying to call my mom, right? And so I wasn't paying attention to where I was stepping. That was my first mistake. So this was in the before times, before my diagnosis. And I didn't know that there was like a reason for my clumsiness. And I just thought, you know, everything was like bad luck or something, right? Okay, it wasn't. Spoiler. But anyway, so I'm dialing my phone, dialing, and I step off of this curb. No big deal, you know, except I'm wearing a pair of slightly old Reefs. And okay, so they were the sandals that had the little church key in the bottom of them, the bottle opener thing. And to be quite honest, so I don't even drink beer. I never have, never got a taste for this stuff. I was more of a whiskey girl myself, you know, but like, anywho. So I loved those shoes, loved them. They were brown and pink and so perfect, and they were like special ordered and all this other stuff. And at that point they were, we're just gonna say it, they were old as crap by that point. So I should not have still been walking on them, much less on concrete, pavement, whatever that is, maybe let's go with the phrase subpar. Yeah, we'll go with that because it's very subpar. Okay, so I'm walking, dialing. I step down, and the parking lot is like super uneven. And at this point, I catch my shoe, being as old as it is, kind of catches the pavement in front of me, and it causes my foot to kind of curl inwards. Sorry for any visual pictures that may have just brought up, but yeah, so anyways, I fell, and then I landed on my foot, you know, like all good clumsy people do, right? And so, you know, I looked around like real quick, like make sure nobody saw me or whatever. And then I got up like I always have. Like I don't see any problem with doing right now, right? Wrong. Oh my God, wrong. I immediately fell back down to the pavement and like screamed. I was just like, oh my fuck. Yeah, it was like a big bad one. And I was in a pretty religious part of town, so I could have picked a better time to scream, oh my fuck, but you know, hey, we make our choices, right? Okay. So anyways, I realized that I can't put any weight on my foot, and I don't know what the deal is. I had never broken a bone up until this point in my life, so I didn't really exactly know what pain I should be even looking out for in a broken bone. So I was just kind of like, I tried to like get up enough to hobble myself to the door, but that didn't work. And okay, so I ended up like crawling, hands and knees back to my like motel room, right? Yeah, it was fucking bad. I wasn't even drunk. But yeah, no. So anyways, I'm crawling like I guess probably 5 feet to the hotel room, trying to navigate getting back up the curb. And oh God, it was just such a fun time, let me tell you what. So I get back into the room and I post on Facebook. I'm like, hey, just a quick question. Does anybody know what a broken bone feels like? And could you maybe describe that pain to me in great detail so that I may find out whether I have broken something or not? And okay, so I've got this one friend. Her name is Mel, and she's been my friend since we were like 6 years old. We were part of like this whole friend group that we went to school together, and yeah, we were just like super, super close. Anyways, she has gone on to be like physical trainery type person in her adult life, which is super, super awesome when you need somebody to tell you something about the body, because she starts telling me like, okay, well, you shouldn't be able to like wiggle your toes. Can you wiggle your toes? And so I'm sitting there like all Kill Bill, like wiggle your big toe, damn it. And I finally wiggle my big toe. And so everybody's like, okay, great. Probably didn't break it, right? So I'm like, okay. So, you know, she tells me to do the whole, like, rice thing, the rest, ice, compression, elevation. Like, I hear that that's bad for us now. I don't know what we're supposed to replace it with, though. But, anyway, so she tells me to do that and to go to the doc in the morning if it's still feeling, like, you know, extremely bad. And so at this point is when I drink. We're talking a lot of whiskey because I needed to kill some pain. It was pretty bad. So anyway, I'm drinking and I've got my little foot elevated and blah, blah, blah. And the next morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, it's still hurting pretty bad. Like, but I think maybe I can try and go to work, you know. Like, worst case scenario, I mean, technically, I worked at a hospital at the time. It was like a medical school, but, you know, whatever. There was medical facilities there, right? Wrong. Just let me tell you, wrong. That hospital closed down a long time ago. Sorry about my chair, by the way. It's very, very squeaky. I need to get a new one. Okay. So I get to work, and at that time I did not have a car because we are talking pre-ADHD diagnosis days, which is, let me tell you, I did some bads. Okay, so this was one point when I, you know, just forgot how to adult enough to like pay my rent on time and continue to pay everything that needed to be paid in the house, and concessions were made and choices were made. And anyway, I ended up like in a situation where I was living in a hotel and a motel, Holiday Inn. No, this was no Holiday Inn. Anyway, I didn't have a car either, so I was a bus girl. Now, not having a car had worked out pretty well for me in my prior situation, just because I was living on the main street in Fort Worth. I was working on the main street in Fort Worth, and I was literally just walking to work every morning. It was like a 7-8 minute walk. It was nothing, right? So that apartment being right there was like super helpful. But then I did not have it, and you know, so I'm taking the bus and hoofing it, like, and see, the problem is I still couldn't put any weight on my leg, and so the bus wasn't really an option that day. I finally got hold of someone, like a family member, to take me to work and drop me off, and like I will figure out something else, you know, at the end of the day, whatever. I get to work. I get into work. I get into, like, seriously, made a boo-boo. But no, I get into work. I still am like, I'm sort of hobbling, and I don't really have, I can't really put weight on it, but I'm making do. I get up the like little ramped entry into work. I go past the electric doors, and then my boss sees me, and he immediately is like, no, you wait right here. I'll go get you a chair, and we can roll you around. I'm like, okay, sure. That's a plan. That's a plan, man. So he goes and gets me a chair, brings it to me, and is like, I don't think you can work like this. At this point, this is like the first outside person who is taking a look at my foot, because I didn't have a shoe on it because it was like swollen, like hugely swollen. Swollen enough to show up the swelling on the x-ray eventually later on in the day. So yeah, but anyway, so boss takes a look at it, and he's like, no, I think you need to go to the ER, like right now. And so I'm like, okay, fine. And then, you know, like, wheels me out to the car because my friend's still there. And she takes me to the hospital and just drops me off because she ain't got time. She ain't got time for that, okay? So, you know, she was doing me a favor, and, you know, thank you for that. But she got to get on with her own life, you know. So. Okay, so anyways, friend drops me off at the hospital. It's legit, the hospital, my entire life, I've gone to this hospital. I don't know why. There were other hospitals that were closer to me, but like, I was born here, and I guess I figured, you know what, I may as well die here. Not that I thought that my foot was going to kill me, but I don't know, maybe like it could have. That would have saved me a lot of, that recovery period was rough. Okay, so I get in, and the lovely people in the ER department there, they did not want to give me an x-ray. They said, it doesn't look like it's broken to us, so you're probably fine. And I was like, I would feel better, like, if you would just x-ray it. Just, like, take a quick look. Just, you know, for me. And so finally, I talked them into it, and they took a quick look. Okay, so you know in like those cartoonish x-rays when you see like just the bones broken straight across, like just like a straight line, right? Okay, so that's what my foot looked like. I had broken 6 bones. It's like the in between, like, okay, so you've got like your 5, you know, toes, right? I had broken these 3 bones, like the interior ones. And they were just like straight across. They seriously just like look like my flip-flops. Like they were like perfect reef shape. I can't wear reefs now because it's just like that's where the break is on my foot. It would hurt too bad. But yeah, so it was like cartoonish how bad this break was. And okay, I had to let that layer dry a little bit before I could keep going. Okay, so I get back to the ER after having my x-ray, and at this point, I don't know that I've broken any bones, but I will say that the x-ray tech, you know how they usually, like, they don't talk to you at all, like, about the results? He kind of gasped, so I knew something was up, and that it was definitely a good thing that I had pressed to get my little teeny tiny swollen ass foot x-rayed. Yeah, okay. So I'm sitting and I'm waiting like you do in ERs because they're so busy. You just have to wait and have to wait your turn. And back in the days before Obamacare, it wasn't any faster. Actually, I think it might have been longer in the ERs because that was kind of what everybody was, you know, using. If you didn't have insurance, that's kind of where you go to the doctor when you absolutely have to go to the doctor, right? Okay, so I'm sitting waiting and expecting, you know, okay, so I broke a bone and I'm gonna like need to get a cast or something. And so finally a doctor comes in and I learn that this is not going to be my fate. I have indeed broken a bone. I have also broken 5 more, and I'm gonna need surgery. Oh, surgery. Yay. Something I haven't really ever had in my life that I can remember, you know, as of, I think there was one when I was like a week old or something, but yeah, I don't remember that, guys. So, this was a first, but, so I started freaking out, no lie. So I'm still expecting that I'm going to get a cast, right? And so they start kind of wrapping it in this, it's just like basic gauze. And, you know, so I wait and see where this is going and wait and wait. And then finally, they just like put a little thing in and they're like, okay, you're set to go, because you're going to have to come talk to a surgeon, and that's going to happen in the morning or, you know, some other time. Basically just not here, young lady. And I mean, because I was young at the time, I was 24 when I ended up in a wheelchair, so yeah. But okay, so like I find out that I'm gonna have to go to the surgical center and all that stuff, and you know, I end up I call a cab. I get home, well, to the crappy motel with a horrible parking lot that I hate now. Yeah, there's that. So I get inside, and you know, I can't put any weight on it, but they've given me child-sized crutches because I am short as crap. And whew, this paint is strong. Anyway, yeah, so I've got my little child-sized crutches that I can't seem to work very well. I had never, like I said, I'd never broken a bone in my life. I always had like crazy thick bones, you know, because like I'm not fat, I'm big bone, right? But like I was not working so great with the crutches. And by not working so great with the crutches, I mean I was doing absolutely horrible. It was just like nightmare material. So I get up the next day, I go to work, I have a lot of Vicodin that I can take during the day, so, you know, at least the work day went by really fast. Don't do drugs. Like, okay, don't do drugs. Just don't do it. But anyway, I talked to my boss, and he's like, so you're going to need surgery, I assume? And I was like, how did you know that? I didn't even know that until they told me. And, yeah, you know, so talked to him and figured out my whole plan for, you know, taking time off and things like that. And since I worked in HR at the time, it was a really easy assumed thing, like, okay, so we're going to put you in for, like, FMLA, and you're going to have some time off, like, a couple weeks after the surgery to recover. I was like, okay, this is, like, the awesomest, like, the best time I've had any kind of medical procedure done in my life. At that point, the last time I had something like this happen, I had to have, like, a little procedure thing in November one time. And I went into Best Buy and I told my manager, and she, in like no uncertain terms, told me like there was no possible way. It's too close to the holidays. So that just wasn't gonna happen. So yeah, I quit, right? And I went and had my surgery because I just thought that's what you were supposed to do. You know, listen to a doctor, not your boss. Anyway, do as I say, not as I do. Never do as I do. I swear. I've just made every possible mistake, I swear. I swear to you. Okay, so I'm talking to my boss, and he's talking about FMLA and all that stuff, and, you know, we basically arrange it so that, like, I can go ahead and, like, call it a day today, and he's gonna get all the paperwork pushed through, and he'll need me to sign some things. But go home and, you know, like take a pain pill and like sleep or something. So I went home and I watched Jackass, because that's this thing I learned actually when I did this is that if you watch people hurting themselves while you are in pain, it makes it a little bit less hell, you know. Yeah, just like a teensy bit less. Okay, I had to go take a hit because this is not the easiest stuff to talk about. But this is my life before I found out that I had ADHD. When I had no idea why. I had no, what's that called? Executive function? Yeah, that's the word. I had no idea why I didn't have any executive function. I just, like, didn't, you know? So, okay. So I go home after spending a couple of hours at work that day. And my boss is just, like, super, super sweet. And, you know, end up calling my mom. Because what else do you do when you're just, like, completely screwed in a situation? So I tell her that I have broken a whole gaggle of bones, you know, And because go me, I like to go big, right? Yeah. Go big or go home. Sometimes you should just go home. But anyway, so I go ahead and I call my mom, tell her about the bones, and, you know, tell her about some situations, and it's always fun taking your lumps, right? So, took my lumps, and she bailed me out, you know, like she do, like moms do. And, just like I said, I was 24 at this time, so I was like peak, executive function, no worky for like years at that point. It was bad. And, you know, at this point, all I had diagnosed was anxiety, because in the before times, before the DSM-5, before the newest presentation of ADHD, that's not the boy presentation, right? Okay, so I was diagnosed with anxiety. That was it. That was all I thought I had. That was all I knew I had. I just knew I went into a doctor one day and I said a whole bunch of stuff about how my brain's not working. And he's like, okay, well, you know, you sound like you have anxiety. So he just gave me a Xanax prescription and like sent me on my merry way. And I just thought at this point I was just like horrible at being an adult. I couldn't manage to like keep my bills paid and keep up with the other things in life. And my apartment was never clean when I had one. You know, it was bad. But I still, like, I didn't know to go to a psychiatrist and ask, hey, do you think we could maybe assess me for ADHD? 'Cause I didn't think I had ADHD, right? Why would I think that? So, I end up getting into this house in Fort Worth, and it was, oh, freaking hell, it was a nightmare. Okay, so let's start. This place had puta spray painted on the back door. And if you don't know what that is, it's a bad word in Spanish. I just remember getting in trouble for trying to learn those. Yeah, so anyway, and it didn't have like stairs to get inside, so I was like, you know, using my butt. It's not the most convenient way to travel, to get up and down things, you know, but you know, it worked. And it had like a window unit, air conditioner, and an inflatable mattress. And holy crap, did I ever miss that horrible, shitty motel so much. But had my puppy, had my Jackass DVDs, had my Evening with Kevin Smith DVDs, and I had my painkillers. So I just did. And then when my mom, you know, was able to get down to Texas, I had an appointment with the surgeon. And okay, so we went to like this really nice surgical place. That funny story, I was actually, while I was taking a hit, I did play on YouTube, and someone was on about how Trump was wanting to repeal and replace the ACA with concepts of the plan, right? So what happened was, this story is from the before times, before the ACA, back when like a whole buttload of people did not have insurance. Oh, and guess who part of that buttload is? Yeah, me. Yeah. Okay. So we go to like this fancy ass surgical place, and we find out this surgery that I'm gonna have and all this other stuff. And then he gives me the bill for what it's gonna be without insurance and just self-pay. And then we leave, and I never ever go back to that place again. Right, so fun. Yeah, okay. So the next place I went was the good old county hospital. I don't know if you've ever seen this show, ER, but that's a pretty solid example of what a county hospital, a county ER is like in a big city. And well, it was hell. Okay. And I ended up having this surgery deducted out of my paycheck because you remember how I told you I worked at a college? Well, that college also managed the county hospital, so they knew exactly where to go to deduct, some payments for all that surgery. Yeah. So that was an expensive surgery too, because that one, I think it was about 30 grand. But, still better than like the 75 that the really fancy doctor wanted to charge me. Yep. Still better than that. So anyway, go to the county hospital, wait my 1.5 million hours to be seen by a doctor, show them my x-rays that I had from the other hospital. They're like, yep, you're gonna need surgery. And guess what? We just have this fancy new surgical center that we are just opening up, and they're gonna be able to do it there for you, and it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. And so the thing was, they had this like fancy ass surgical center, and it was great. It was really great. But the actual department where I saw the follow-up doctors after the surgery, it was still in the old part of the hospital. They were actually doing renovations at the time. This is going to be important later, so, put a pin in that. Okay, so I go to the fancy-ass surgical suite. I have my little surgery. My mom barely shows up on time. I'm freaking out. It's, it's just a fun time had by all, right? And then, sorry. She finally shows up right before they're wheeling me back, and they take me back there, and apparently there were some problems with my surgery. They were supposed to go in through the bottom of my foot, but they couldn't, so they ended up going through the bottom and then through the top, and they left my foot kind of messed up. And then they put pins in, and then they sent me on my merry way, and then I checked out of the hospital like 2 whole seconds after I'd woken up from anesthesia, and totally had to make my mom pull the car over because I had to puke like mad before we were even a mile down the road. Yeah, that was super fun, super good times. Okay, so my mom drops me off at my place, and she is not real thrilled about the looks of it, but, I tell her it's fine. And she goes on to stay at her hotel and, does whatever for the night, and I take my pain pills and sleep, because at that point I had already puked, and, I was done. I was done for the day. It was only like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, but I was done for the day because I had puked and had surgery, and it was a really long day. Okay, so anyway, so I do this for like the next little bit, and I'm kind of like recovering, and oh my god, so I had a PS2, and it wouldn't play all of my DVDs. It would really only play the Jackass DVDs and The Evening with Kevin Smith, and I think Serpico. Yeah, so I was watching like those 3 things. Well, I think there were more than one evening of Kevin Smith at that time still, but it is still like just like 3 titles. And so after about 6 weeks passed of this, and I'm going to the doctor every week, and by this point my mom had graciously helped me with a down payment on a car. And so, I'm driving myself to the appointments, and, hobbling in and stuff. And I had to switch to a wheelchair after the surgery because I could not manage the crutches. It was not happening. And there was no way I was going to be a 24-year-old using a walker. So, no, okay, I've gotten over that ableism, because, like, I would totally go back to using my walker right now if I had to. But I'm just kind of at cane level, so, yeah. But, like, I was young. I didn't want to be on a walker, and somehow a wheelchair seemed less embarrassing than the old person walker with like the tennis balls on the legs and things. Yeah, I couldn't deal with that. So I'd been using a wheelchair like that whole summer, and I'd just kind of been staying off my foot and just dealing with life as little as possible, and using up every teensy little bit of my FMLA, because I couldn't. Anytime I stopped taking the pills, my my foot was like, it hurt really, really bad, and it never stopped throbbing. And so I didn't want to go back to work yet. I wasn't ready to not I wasn't ready to deal with the way my foot was apparently just going to feel from now on. Spoiler. So yeah, so I thought that this was like healing, and it turns out it wasn't. So they pulled 2 of the pins out after about 6 weeks, and they go to pull the 3rd pin out, the 3rd and final pin, and they can't get it out. And the doctor goes down to the other end of the hallway where they are doing construction. Remember, we put a pin in that. Okay, so he grabs a pair of like dirty ass construction pliers and comes back and uses that to pull the pin out. And when he pulls the pin out, when he finally gets it out of my foot, we all hear a noise. And then he says, crap. And then I'm like, okay, what happened? And he tells me that he thinks that he might have broken that bone, getting the pin detached from it. And I'm gonna need an x-ray. And at this point, I'm an HR person, so I know that I'm out of FMLA. Like, just, I'm out, you know, there's nothing I can say or do. So I just learned to live on it. I learned to walk with it being all funky like that. I learned to just, you know, cope with it. And yeah, it became a problem in like 13 years after that. Actually, no, about 15 years after that, when I started dealing with neuropathy. I had been dealing with it for a little bit, and then it started to, the pain started to like intermingle. It was like super fun there for a minute. But, and I had another surgery. I had a nerve taken out, and now, honestly, if it just hurts, I go and medicate, because I live in a medical state, and that's what I can do. And then it stops hurting, and I can get back to, you know, trying to basic human and like finish washing the dishes, or, you know, maybe fold some clothes. I never fold the clothes. There's a load in the laundry right now, and it's in the dryer though, so, you know, it's good. It's good. But yeah, like, so I totally screwed up my foot, like, lifelong, and, you know, it's just now gotten to a point where it's controllable, it's dealable, and it's not the top priority pain I have to focus on anymore, so yay! But, yeah, the moral of this story, I think, is if you're in an ER and they don't want to give you x-rays, make sure that they give you the x-rays, okay? I understand, like, you may not have insurance, but it doesn't matter. You just owe that money for the rest of your life, that's okay. It's still better than not getting x-rays and finding out that you've broken like 6 or 7 bones. Yeah. So, anyway, peace out, my lovelies.